delighted to have you with us tonight. I know we did this, I think, a couple of years ago. So welcome, everyone. A couple matters of housekeeping. Hopefully you've had some time to enjoy the refreshments that we provided tonight, and then restrooms for men and women are out the door and down the hallway to the left. Okay, so welcome, and Barb, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Good evening, and welcome to the Winfield Village Trustees Forum, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Wheaton, which serves the communities of Warrenville, West Chicago, Winfield, Wheaton, and Carroll Stream. My name is Barb Wymans, and I'm your moderator for this evening. I do ask for your patience, because I'm a last-minute substitute for the scheduled moderator who got sick. I tried to tell her it was in the hospital, she'd be okay. She didn't like that. So, just for some background, the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that neither supports, opposes, or recommends candidates for any office. The League is not affiliated with any political party. The League's purpose is to promote political responsibility through the informed and active participation of citizens in government and civil discourse. Providing this forum allows citizens to become better informed about the issues facing their community and to become better acquainted with the candidates running for office. As a league, we do promote citizen education and informed and citizen participation. If there is a controversy, our interest is to bring balance and fairness to the discussion and ensure that all parties are heard. And as a little form of commercial, if you're interested in joining the league, please feel free to reach out to any of us. We'd be glad to give you more information. We do want to thank all the candidates who came for elections for Park District, Library, and School Board for giving of their time during the meet and greet. But now we will be hearing from the candidates for the Winfield Village Trustee in a formal forum. 6 candidates are running to fill 3 positions. All candidates were invited. Regrettably, Carrie Costardo is out of town and will not be joining us tonight. The candidates have agreed to basic rules outlined by the League of Women Voters, which includes no voice, image, or other duplication of the forum may be used by a candidate's representative or campaign in any campaign advertising. This forum is being streamed in its entirety on Facebook Live, and the League will be making the video available at a later date for viewing by those who could not be here. Lots were drawn earlier tonight to determine the order in which candidates will give their opening statements and answer questions. The candidate who makes the first opening statement will move to the end of the line for the first question, and this rotation will continue throughout the questioning and closing comments. Candidates will be allowed 2 minutes to give an opening statement, 1 minute to respond to the questions, and 1 minute for a closing statement. Members of the League will act as timers, and I will enforce the time limits. I'm a former teacher, believe me, I will enforce the time limits. Yes. I forgot my whip. Should a candidate exceed the time limit, I will let them finish their sentence and then move on to the next candidate or question. Some rules also apply to you as the audience. Volunteers have index cards on which you, the audience, can write your questions. Only written questions will be allowed. The question must be addressed to all candidates. Questions posed to specific candidates will not be used. If you have a question that you would like to be picked up and given to our question sorters, just raise it in the air and League volunteers will be around. Okay. Out of courtesy to the candidates and other audience members, I ask that you please turn off your electronic devices at this point. I also give the candidates a chance to do that. I also ask you to please refrain from applauding or demonstrating in any other way support or non-support of the candidate. So let us begin with opening statements. Mr. Sorgatz, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event and for all those attending this evening. My name is Carl Sorgatz. I was elected in 2015 as a trustee after serving for 4.5 years as the treasurer of Winfield. I've also served on the Police Pension Board, 6 years on the Plan Commission, and on the 2013 Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee. Currently, I serve on the Administration and Finance Committee, the Economic Development and Communications Commission, and on the Riverwalk Committee. And through Winfield in Action, I've coached basketball, baseball, and soccer for 10 years when my 3 sons were growing up. I'm a 32-year resident of this wonderful community we call Winfield. I'm also a retired printing executive after 37 years, and former chairman of the Trade Association for Illinois Credit Unions and Spectrum Business Resources, LLC. I am running again for trustee for several reasons. To continue to contribute my time and talents for the betterment of Winfield, to add my professional, civic, and financial background, which bring essential qualifications at a time when Winfield faces financial challenges and considers commercial development that will alter the face of Winfield, and to provide a needed independent perspective while being open-minded, innovative, hardworking, and respectful. There are 4 key issues I hope to address tonight: the Town Center negotiations with Northwestern Medicine CDH, the Northwestern Medicine CDH grant, the financial challenges Winfield faces, and the Roosevelt Road development. We have several significant opportunities to improve our village both financially and aesthetically through quality development. To accomplish the best possible results require professional dialogue and a commitment and willingness to be open to a collaborative process, not public threats or disparaging rhetoric. We have a lot to gain, but also a lot to risk should these issues be mishandled. Let's get back to negotiating professionally and utilizing the experience that several trustees possess. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hogan?
Hello, again, can you hear me okay? Am I on? Thank you. I have lived in Winfield for 16 years. I've been a trustee for the past 4. Previously, I was chair of the steering committee for the comprehensive plan and the economic development commission. I presently serve as chair of the public works committee in addition to my duties as trustee. I've been married 45 years to my wife, Joanne. I have 3 children and 5 grandchildren. I have a Bachelor of Science from the University of Maryland. I served 4 years active duty in the United States Air Force, receiving the Vietnam Service Medal and the Vietnam Campaign Medal. My professional career included 32 years working for the Army Corps of Engineers, where I was a director of real estate in 2 regions, one based in Chicago, entailing the Great Lakes, one based in Dallas, serving the southwestern portion of the country. During Operation Enduring Freedom, I headed up DoD real estate operations in Southern Asia and Eastern Africa. I'm running for re-election as an independent on the Winfield Working Together ticket because I'm concerned with the direction the village is taking. We're stagnating. We really need to change direction and get away from this concept, some champion, that we should have one monolithic board with only one thought process and not accepting of any ideas. We can't continue to follow this direction. Look around you. Look at the town center. Look at the lack of development on Roosevelt Road. We have a severe financial crisis looming, and we need to take dramatic steps to increase our tax base. Our expenditures are increasing, our revenues are decreasing. Some people don't want to talk about that, but we have to address it. Thank you.
Ms. Morrell?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank you for having this forum, and I just want to acknowledge Carrie Pistardo, who is among other things, a small business owner in the Village Town Center, would be a great asset to the board. And I'm running also with Bob Greer. We're running with the endorsements of President Eric Spandy, current trustees Phil Mustez, and Jim McCurdy. Just a little bit about me. I moved here from Michigan after college. I lived in a variety of the city and the suburbs. After my husband and I had our son, we wanted to settle down. We found Winfield and we fell in love. We loved everything about it. I mean, the schools are fantastic. So much to do outdoors, indoors. And we bought our forever home. I joke that I'm a future long-term resident. After I moved in, I volunteered and I became a key member of the Village's Administration and Finance Committee. I'm closing on my 2nd budget cycle right now. I know the village's finances. There are great things going on. We have $200 million of development in the pipeline, and we need to keep that going. And I promise that I will not sacrifice our long-term future for any short-term gains. We need to be smart, and we need to have a united board. We have negotiations coming up with the hospital, and the thing that we need the least is going to be a divided board. We need to have a supported board that represents many of the people of the village of Winfield. My apologies. And we need to be smart when we're negotiating with the hospital. When I'm elected, I promise to serve with the willingness that I came into this village. I want to work for you. I want to work for the residents, all of them. And I kindly ask for your vote.
Thank you. Dr. Greer.
My name is Dr. Robert Greer, incumbent trustee for the Village of Winfield, seeking a second term. My first term as trustee boasts of a number of accomplishments, such as the successful negotiation with Northwestern Medicine Central DuPage Hospital that resulted in a $4.5 million economic development grant divided into 5 years of $900,000. The second accomplishment was a successful negotiation that resulted in a $23 million e-commerce center on North Avenue, land that was recently annexed into the Village of Winfield. I'm currently working with the Spandy administration on the commercial development of the Roosevelt Road corridor and a luxury apartment complex on the current Winfield fuel material site. The major challenge facing Winfield, however, is the expansion of Central DuPage Hospital into town center. The hospital insists that its developments be tax-free, and that monies that may be given to the village from the hospital be no more than 25 years to offset its tax-free status. I liken such monies given to the village from the hospital as putting lipstick on a pig. That is to say, the possible monies that the hospital may give to the village is the lipstick. The tax-free status for all new hospital developments in town center is the pig. I say no more free lunch for the hospital. They have to pay their way henceforth and onward. It consistently makes over $200 million a year in net profits. It can't afford to pay its own way. I ask for your vote, not only because I want a second term as trustee, but because I want the village to have a stable government as they face the challenges in Winfield in the years to come. Thank you.
Ms. Jacobs.
Thanks. Good evening. My name is Emily Jacobs. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for having us here tonight, to my fellow residents for taking the time to come listen, and to Northwestern Medicine CDH for hosting us here at your home. I'm a 25-year resident of Winfield. I love it so much I chose to find my own home here a couple years ago. I am also a high school social studies teacher, and I've been teaching for 10 years. What brought me to that career is a love of government and a love of history and a passion for helping other people. Above and beyond teaching at my school, I'm the program coordinator for a college preparatory program for students. In that role, I oversee part-time positions, I create budgets, I secure funding, and I plan community outreach events. Also in that role, I'm the leader of a team of teachers that has 40 people on it, and my job is to represent that multitude of voices to our administration in strategic plan discussions. The reason that I'm running is because I would like to bring the unique skill set that I have as an educator to the board in order to make a difference. On the volunteer front, I've been on the Economic Development and Communications Commission for the last year and a half, appointed by President Spandy, and I had the pleasure to work on the new mission and vision statement of the village. I also volunteer at Cantini, and I get to greet visitors at the First Division Museum. I've done my homework for this election, and I have learned a lot in the process, and I promise you that I will continue learning throughout this time. As a teacher, a young adult, a longtime resident, and an active community volunteer, I promise to you that I will always ask your opinions, I will vote for what is right rather than what I'm told, and I will work best to collaboratively work with everybody in the town to represent all opinions. So again, my name is Emily Jacobs, and I hope to earn your vote on April 2nd. Thanks.
Thank you. The first question, most of the questions do center around Central DuPage and Winfield and the expansion. So we might as well tackle that question first off. Mr. Hogan, the first question will begin with you. How should Winfield balance property tax revenue with the large amounts such as Northwestern being tax exempt?
Well, let's agree to one thing. I think everyone at this table will agree that CDH, because of its nonprofit status, needs to help the village. I don't think necessarily CDH would be opposed to that. What we've been trying to do, unfortunately, negotiations are at an impasse. We've been trying to work out a long-term agreement with CDH to redevelop the town center. to bring needed tax revenue to the town center, and to have some of that property off the tax rolls, some or most of the property off the tax rolls. Unfortunately, we've been negotiating by throwing missiles at CDH. As a consequence, no one is negotiating anymore. If I think you're going to negotiate on something that is this big, you have to negotiate professionally. You can't do it through blogging. You can't do it through social media. And we just have to do a better job at the way we negotiate.
Thank you. Ms. Amaral.
Negotiations are going to be a big deal moving forward. I think that having a united board is going to provide a strong front. And not only having a united board, but having a representative board, the village residents, is going to be very important. Just so you know, I mean, CDH is a nonprofit, but then again, the NFL is. Nonprofit and charities are two entirely different things. They make I think the 2017 Cranes Chicago Business reported that they made a profit, just this hospital, of over $200 million. What we're asking for is, we're not asking for all $200 million, we're asking for the fair share. There have been professional estimates that say that this property alone, not the property in town center, would generate over $40 million in tax revenue if they were to have to pay their taxes. And with them owning over 50% of our town center, we need to be very mindful about our future moving forward, because point to me another municipality that has 50% of their downtown area on the tax rolls and is successful.
Thank you. Dr. Greer.
The comment that we've been throwing missiles at Central DuPage Hospital is utter nonsense. We have been working professionally, and we had almost brought the negotiation to a conclusion last November. It was then that the Central DuPage Hospital, on its own, decided to backtrack out of the agreement that had already been decided in negotiation conversation. In fact, the Winfield newsletter came out that was jointly written both by the hospital and our people on the village staff, all in agreement with what was to be the conclusion of this negotiation. Approximately $70 million negotiation. That was a win-win for both the hospital and the village. And yet they backtracked out of it, and now we are at a standstill. But I don't put the blame on the village. This is the typical way that they have been negotiating with us for the last 5 years at least.
Ms. Jacobs.
Thanks. I think the ideal relationship between Northwestern Medicine CDH Hospital and the village should be one of shared opportunities and compromise. Whenever possible, I think we should be able to find some common ground and agreement. My position, as Dennis stated, and I think that we all agree, is for CDH to have development on the tax rolls. I don't think there's disagreement there. I do want to point out that I'm the only non-incumbent candidate to have met with both sides of this equation. I had a meeting with Village Manager Barrett and with the president of CDH Hospital, Mr. Lemon. And from both of those meetings, I felt that both sides wanted to feel respected. And I think that's a general principle. I felt very positive about meeting with both representatives. I felt like I had a good relationship with both. So my goal moving forward would be to nurture that relationship, continue listening to both sides and to residents, and specifically, I'd like to see more trustees included in the negotiation process. I think we have a lot of trustees that have that experience, and I'd like to see that moving forward.
Thank you. And Mr. Sorgatz.
I think it's important when we talk about getting a negotiation on track. It doesn't function well when we send out notifications from the village that say Northwestern Medicine beware, or citizens of Winfield beware, Northwestern Medicine. Or if at board meetings we have trustees that say CDH makes Winfield sick, let's put signs out. That's counterproductive. What is productive is being able to get back to the table and understanding that in any negotiation, neither side is going to get 100% of what they want. As Trustee Hogan said, it's very clear to everybody here that supporting, making sure the hospital stays on the tax rolls, and finding that happy medium of what amount works long-term for both the village's needs and the hospital's needs, so that we can come to an agreement. So getting back to the table was critical, and not throwing barbs, there's totally non-productive. So professional negotiation, sitting down at the table, and that's why it's important to get back on track.
Thank you. We have some follow-up questions that might be of interest. And we'll start with Ms. Amo. Do you feel, and some of you have already touched on this, do you feel Winfield should be more collaborative in the negotiations? And as a follow-up to that, what kind of feedback are residents giving you about Central DuPage Hospital in Winfield?
So, thank you. In terms of collaboration, I agree collaboration. I don't think it's any coincidence that after current trustee Hogan announced that the board was divided, CDH, who had a part in the newsletter that was out that said that it's going to be raining on the tax rolls, all of a sudden the goalposts moved. We need to have a united front. We need to have a representative front. In talking to residents, we all are in agreement. All new development needs to stay on the tax rolls. Residents have been paying for more than their fair share for far too long. I have to agree with them. I mean, like I said, finding a municipality that has 50%, over 50% of their downtown, town center area off of the tax rolls and is successful. They can,
I'm sorry. Oh, no. Dr. Greer?
I've been on the board for 4 years, and before that I worked as a newspaper man for the Village of Winfield. So I've been watching the village politics for some time, and I've noticed how Central DuPage Hospital negotiates. They go forward, they make advances toward a solution, only to backtrack out. And then they go back and forth like this. This is their standard method of operation. And it is difficult to negotiate with any organization that keeps moving the goalposts upon you. That's what we're up against once again, with Central DuPage Hospital. I believe that we are negotiating professionally and we are negotiating fairly. The problem is that they keep moving the goalpost on us. They said that they would be willing to have, keep the new developments on the tax rolls, only to change it at the last minute for only 25 years and then nothing. That is a major change in negotiation, and we have to, that's what we're dealing with right now.
Thank you. Ms. Jacobs?
I do think that we need more collaboration in order to get a deal. Winfield has always been identified as the home of Central DuPage Hospital. It's part of our identity, and that is one of the major things that I've heard from residents to answer that part of your question. When I've been knocking on door to door, many people say that they value the hospital. It's an asset to them to have a well-performing hospital in our local area. They also say, though, that they are skeptical of what's going on, and I think that's fair. A lot of people seem confused about the whole situation, and I think that's also a fair complaint to have. So in order to fix that, I do think we need to collaborate more, because that's the only way we're going to get to an agreement. I do want to make sure that we grow together, the hospital and the village, and not put the burden on the taxpayers. I do agree with Ms. Elmerl that we are unique from our neighbors that have hospitals in their town, because we are a smaller town and the hospital is larger. And so to do that, we need to find a way that is more fair for us, because Winfield is unique. During my meeting, Mr. Lemon acknowledged that fact, and so I think we need to take him up on that.
Thank you. Mr. Sorgatz?
Yes, collaboration doesn't mean acquiescence. What's important here is to understand that both organizations, the village, as we represent you as trustees, certainly want to make sure that we get a deal that takes care of the tax issue, provides the revenue that we need. And by the way, to clarify, the revenue that would be generated from this development will be in the TIF fund. It's restricted in the area of the TIF only. So it can be used for future development. It could be used for things like building or moving the village hall and using that. Another thing I want to talk about real briefly is the fact that, again, sitting down, getting to the issues at hand, that's the most important thing. To make clear where I stand is we need to make sure that there's a fair financial agreement, both for the village and also for development, so we can achieve the goal of having a town center and doing that in a way that benefits all the residents of town. That's where I stand, and I want to make that clear.
Thank you. And Mr. Hogan?
Throughout my career, I negotiated agreements with state and local governments, corporations, and foreign countries. you usually don't have a smooth negotiation. Negotiations are tough sometimes. You have to come up with innovative ideas. You have to find out what they want, you have to tell them what you want, and you have to negotiate. What you can't do is throw up your hands and pout. You just have to go back and keep on negotiating. There was something that was said about me which I found curious, that because I said the board was divided, that the negotiations with CDH changed. I don't even understand what that means or what that person was trying to say.
Thank you. Dr. Greer, you'll begin with this question. Regarding the current TIF, are you in favor of letting it expire at its normal expiration date?
The TIF program is currently in operation until for the next 9 years. What we will be doing at the conclusion of that 9 years has not yet been decided. So it's inappropriate for me to comment or speculate on that. I would like to say, however, regarding what Mr. Hogan said, he cannot understand how his comments about a divided board resulted in the backtracking of the hospital. Chronologically speaking, one followed the other. And we have a track record with the hospital in the past 5 years where they have tried to divide the board and then tried to get their way with the confusion that creates. It is therefore possible, even likely, that this resulted in the backtracking of our negotiation with the hospital that was in play until December of 2018.
Ms. Jacobs, the question about the TIF district, please.
Thank you. I do think that the TIF district has positives and negatives in any area, whether it be ours or not. And I do happen to agree with Dr. Greer that I think it would be beneficial not to make a decision at this point. I will also tell you though that one thing about me is that I am a lifelong learner, and when approached with something, I will do my homework and research it and find out everything needed in order to make an informed decision. So when that time comes, when it starts to be discussed on the board, I will do everything I can to make sure that I'm not only knowledgeable about it, but that I talk to residents and find out how they are feeling about it so that I can best represent their opinions and not just give my own.
Mr. Sorgatz.
Regarding the expiration of the TIF, again, if we look at the development potential for the town center, and if we look at what's been put out there as far as we're going to build a new village hall, we're going to have it all paid for by the TIF. If there's no, I'm going to be honest here, if there's no extension of the TIF, that is not going to happen because there would not be sufficient funds to allow that to happen. And to kind of address this question again about the statement about a divided board has changed the dynamic on the negotiations. Unfortunately, that's just pure hogwash. Again, there's nothing restricting either party from getting back to the table and discussing what we need to do to get an agreement and outlining what those issues are. In fact, what I requested at one of the last board meetings was that we have a summary statement at the end of each one of those negotiating sessions that details out what's been agreed to, what hasn't been agreed to, what we need to go forward with, and what are the steps that we can continue to work on to reach an agreement. And that's something that wasn't received well by some of the trustees on the board that are opposing us.
Mr. Hogan.
Regarding the TIF, I do agree with Trustee Sorgas. There's been no decision made on extending the TIF as of now, but as he indicated, if we do relocate the Village Hall as part of the broad town center redevelopment project, we would have to use TIF funds. In that case, the TIF would have to be extended. If someone say otherwise, would it be true?
And Ms. Amaral.
So as stated, we have 9 years left on the TIF. That's a lot of time. It'd be premature for me to say what's going to happen. I mean, if we get towards the 9 years, I would be consulting with the village staff, consulting with fellow board members, and with the village residents itself. I think it's premature for me to say what would happen with the TIF.
Thank you. Ms. Jacobs, this question will start with you. What new businesses is Winfield recruiting or supporting the development to encourage more use of downtown for young families and young people and bring more people into Winfield?
Okay, thank you for that question. One thing that I think is important to note is that as far as I see it from the board meetings that I've attended, much of the effort at this point is being put into our current projects, which to me is mostly our development agreement with the hospital. And so at this point, as an observer, it seems that most of our resources are going towards that goal. So that being said, with that development, the goal of the village is to get more restaurants and retail and all things that people can enjoy, including public spaces. If that happens, that will be a great way to improve that development. Some other ways that I think we need to do it is to reach out to specific, as you mentioned, family-oriented places that people in our town would like to see. And some areas for that would be Roosevelt Road. And I think that that is an area that the board is also trying to focus on.
Mr. Sorgatz.
Regarding town center, there's a number of businesses I would like to see come in, certainly restaurants. Part of the plan that we have, the mock-up of the plan, shows outdoor dining capability also. I think that's absolutely essential to be a mandate point for people to come to downtown and enjoy Winfield as the wonderful village that it is. We have some businesses that we don't want to lose. Gnarly Knots is a good example of that. I do not want to see them leave. They would be a prime candidate to recruit and move into a new development area, and several other restaurants. We've hired our own broker to ensure that we will be looking at other businesses in the surrounding area to come relocate to Winfield, and also the hospital has their broker who's looking at filling those properties at the same time. So it's really important that we continue to do that, work hard to bring these businesses, and let the businesses know that are here in town now, you know, this is what we're doing, communicate better, and reach out to those businesses, which we're not doing a very good job of, and we need to improve certainly going forward.
Mr. Hogan.
I've spoken to two businesses who wish to expand in the town center. I know the village manager has spoken to one of the same ones, and I know he's spoken to another business. So whenever I go out and I talk to businesses, irrespective of whether it's in Winfield or it's in a surrounding community, I sometimes will speak to them about the potential for relocating to Winfield. Ms. Jacobs says something very interesting. Town center will not be the economic engine for Winfield. It's going to be Roosevelt Road. The reason we're so concerned with the town center is that's the heart of our community. And you want to have something there. It doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to bring in a lot of money. It should bring in some money. But it has to be someplace where people can go, a destination for our community. Thank you.
Ms. Amaral.
As someone with a train-obsessed toddler, I love Burger Brothers. Love to see about 10 of them. But there is a lot that we have in development right now. We have $200 million available in the pipeline. New projects, Roosevelt Road, North Avenue. But in specific to town center for families, we've got the Riverwalk Park that just won the Oslo grant. And it's gonna be right by Gnarly Knots, right by our town center. Should funnel people in from the Riverwalk, bring new people in, both visiting and potential new residents. I wish Carrie was here to answer some of this, but Winfield's also a proud charter member of the new Winfield Greater Chamber. And there's a lot of work being done within the businesses that we currently have in Winfield and working on extending that. There's been great ideas of having kind of an art in the park, in Creekside Park, and events like that. So, yeah, I think also having the Antique District, which was created, is also bringing in a lot of wonderful people. I want to see that continue.
Dr. Greer.
Town center we are dependent right now with these negotiations with the hospital before we can really move forward with town center. Having said that, however, the bicycle trail is well on its way toward completion. So is the Riverwalk Park on its way to completion. We estimate that thousands of people outside of our village will be going through our village because of the bicycle trail and the Riverwalk. That we believe will generate more commerce and could also encourage the stores that are in town center. Having said that, but we also have now the Antique District that is showing signs of real promise for the future. But having said all that, I do agree that The commerce engine for Winfield will not be at the town center, it will be Roosevelt Road corridor. And we are working diligently upon that. We have hired a consultant to help us, and we are very excited with what we're seeing develop currently in Roosevelt Road. I think you'll see in the upcoming months some wonderful things happening in that area. Thank you.
There's a perfect segue for the next question. Mr. Sorgatz, you'll be the first one to answer. What is happening on Roosevelt Road? What are the plans?
Well, basically, right now, nothing is happening on Roosevelt Road. The Buc-ee's is not going to be happening. So right now, we don't have any development in the hopper. We have been going through this process for several years, and we're kind of at a standstill. So when we talk about $200 million in the hopper, Roosevelt Road certainly has nothing right now that's been proposed from a developer on the northwest corner. The southwest corner right now is not happening. So I don't know where the $200 million comes from, to be honest with you. What we should be doing and need to continue to do is to work diligently and press our broker to be able to come forward with some viable proposals for that area. It's been projected that could potentially create a large amount of sales tax revenue, and that is going to be critical for the village. So my focus will be to continue to push hard for that, and also the grocery store would be one of those items I'll push for. Thank you.
Mr. Hogan?
We passed the comprehensive plan to redevelop Roosevelt Road commercially 5 years ago. Since that time, there has not been one single parcel purchased or developed in 5 years. I don't know where the $200 million is coming from either. We are hopeful of developing Roosevelt Road. We want Roosevelt Road to develop. It has potential, but nothing's happening right now. Just so everyone knows, well, I'll talk about the budget later, but we have a fiscal problem right now. Our expenditures are vastly outpacing our revenue, and we have to develop Roosevelt Road. We have to develop the town center, and we have to develop any other available open space, commercially zoned space we have in order to survive, because our pension costs are increasing, our expenditures are increasing, but our revenues aren't.
Thank you. Ms. Amaral?
So Roosevelt Road, the Buc-ee's is being proposed down there. Yeah, Winfield, they're estimating about $150,000 a year in sales tax revenue for the village. It's very crucial that we can work on that, continue the development on that southwest corner, and work on the northwest corner. We also need to focus on North Avenue, which is, we've annexed that off. Construction's completing on that, and that should yield us a lot of revenue. Hopefully, yield us revenue as well.
Dr. Greer?
Real quick, to clarify a problem that has emerged in the last few moments, $200 million can be added up by the $75 million in town center, the e-commerce development center on North Avenue, the southwest corner of Roosevelt Road, and the new luxury departments that are being negotiated currently on Winfield Material and Fuel, and also a new site that's going to be developed in the current Prozac site. You add those all up, you get more than $200 million. Easy to do the math. It's real simple. Now, as far as the Buc-ee's, as was mentioned earlier, nothing is happening there. That's nonsense as well. We were at our last board meeting. Our negotiator told us that he had someone that's very, very anxious and interested in developing the site that Buc-ee's was at. Everyone heard it, including those at this table, except the incumbents at this table, that is. And we are excited with seeing what will happen with Roosevelt Road Corridor. Much is coming to fruition there.
Ms. Jacobs?
Thanks. I'm going to take this in a different direction because I think we've had plenty of comments about Buc-ee's, so I'm not going to comment either way because I'm not on the board and I don't know the current negotiations. But what I do want to say is that one area I'd like to see improvement in our village is to communicate a little bit better on status updates on some of these projects. I think our village has a great system for people to opt in for email updates, and I'd like to see that used more frequently. I'd also like to see social media used more frequently as a way to get information out there. I know that in negotiations, you cannot share specific details of what's being negotiated, but when I go to door, a lot of people ask these questions, what's happening with Buc-ee's, what's happening here? And so I think providing not necessarily details, but this is where it's at, or this is what's left. I do know those things are discussed in the board meetings, but a lot of our residents don't access the tapes of the meetings. So one thing I'd like to see us improve on is sending to our residents directly, those that opt in, some more frequent status updates.
Thank you. Mr. Hogan, you'll start the next round of questions, and we'll build off of something that you began is, what is the state of the village's finances, and what needs to be done?
We're making $550,000 from the red light on Roosevelt Road. When Roosevelt Road gets expanded, that's $550,000 every year. When Roosevelt Road gets expanded, and it will, that red light camera is going away. And our ability to get it back after that expansion is completed will be very difficult because there's more stringent standards that the state has. That's $550,000 there. We have a $900,000 grant from CDH annually. That grant expires in 2 years. If that grant does not get renewed, that puts us $1.4 million in the hole. Right now, by 2023, we will fall under the minimum required in the general fund. That's fiscal year 2022-23. 4 years, folks. That's what's going to happen. And unless we start developing now, unless we start negotiating professionally, we have a big problem coming up.
Ms. Amaral?
So the village does run incredibly lean. We're one of the leanest, and we've won awards for our fiscal responsibility. Now, if everything does go wrong, yes, the 2022 to 2023 is when we start to lose some of our reserves. But that's the worst case scenario. That's why we have to be diligent about keeping our pipeline active and keeping our pipeline full and making sure these projects come to fruition. That's also why we need to be very vigilant about town center, and any expansion has to be on the tax rolls. So I think we also want to make note that yes, the 2022 and 2023 is the worst case scenario. So before we get too nervous about that, we need to keep moving forward and keep the momentum that we have going on.
Dr. Greer?
We need to remember that we are currently in the black. We're stable currently as a village. We'd be thankful for the village staff to cause that to happen for us. We run a very lean ship. And that's just the way it is. Now, of course, if things turn sour in our negotiations in these upcoming years, by 2023, everything can turn around in a very negative way. This was brought to our attention in the last board meeting. If our negotiations go well between now and 2023, we'll be fine again. That's why we need to negotiate effectively and strongly, especially with the hospital. And that is why we need a unified board to work with the hospital so they do not divide us apart as they have been trying to do in recent weeks. Thank you.
Ms. Jacobs?
I do agree with many people that moving forward our budget may become more complicated because of what Mr. Hogan mentioned, the red light camera, the economic development grant renewal. So I just want to point out that I think the way to not get to that worst case scenario, as was pointed out, is to work on what one of the questions was earlier, which is more development to get more sales tax. I'd like to see us improve upon having more restaurants, more coffee shops, more spaces that people can utilize. We have some of those spaces that are extremely successful, as mentioned earlier, Burger Brothers, Gnarly Knots, and even more that aren't always mentioned. And so we need to kind of build on some of that success, not only to build more sales tax, but to build more of a community feel. I also want to point out that I'm the only non-incumbent candidate, besides Ms. Almeron, who sits on the Admin and Finance Committee, who's attended the budget workshops and the budget approval meeting. I have been trying to learn and do my due diligence to learn as much as I can to participate effectively.
And Mr. Sargas?
Yes, key things. Our sales tax revenue has been flat the last 5 years. In our comprehensive, in our strategic plan, it was put in that it would double by 2020, and fiscal year 2020, that's not going to happen, obviously. So the key for us is we have to grow the sales tax, but also be aware of the fact that that $550,000 red light camera is going to go away as soon as Roosevelt Road starts, and it's gone for 3 years, guaranteed. That's the way the state law is. So that is a definite loss of revenue. The $900,000 grant is critical. If we lose that, that is also being used right now to the tune of about $450,000 to offset expenses. So those two pieces alone are coming due in a couple of years. So it's important that we negotiate those issues, that we get on top of that, and that we find a solution that we could work with the hospital to continue the process to help support the village. And they are a citizen of the village, and that's an important piece that they need to do to contribute. But yes, we need to make some changes financially, for sure.
Changing gears a little bit, Ms. Almer, I'll take this question first. Can you explain the responsibility of the trustees, the role of the village manager, and the role of the president in your report?
So I've had the privilege to work with the village manager and the president through my involvement in the administration and finance committee. So as a board member, you have to make informed decisions. You have to utilize information provided by the village staff, who are experts in these areas, consult with your fellow board members and the residents to make the best decisions possible moving forward for the health of the village, for the residents, for the staff, for everyone. I've worked with Village Manager Barrett, the Village Administration and Finance Committee. I have nothing but good things to say about him. I find him to be a true civil servant, and he has always shown to me that he has the best interest for the residents at heart. When I'm elected a board member, I plan on continuing to work with the village staff, and I would be honored to work with the fellow board members and continue to have an open communication with constituents.
Dr. Greer.
I liken the president of our village as the executive branch. If you think in terms of our federal government, you'd be similar to the executive branch of the President of the United States. You'd be in a much more smaller version, of course. And that the village manager would be working within that administration, under the leadership of the president. The trustees, on the other hand, are more likened to like a Congress, where we work and we create the laws or the policies with which the village manages itself. I believe that the trustees serve best when they emphasize macro-managing the village, not micromanaging the village manager and his staff. That's been a problem we've been having on our board with if certain members of our board, trustee board, that like to micromanage our staff, and it is causing some ripples and causing some problems.
Ms. Jacobs?
Thank you. I actually really appreciate this question because this was one of the questions that I came into my meeting with Manager Barrett to ask, because it was something that from watching the board meetings I was curious to learn more about. And so a couple key things that I learned from talking to him really actually helped me understand better. So in terms of the village manager, I learned from him, this is my takeaway, that his role is to implement the decisions and goals of the board. And so to take the direction, he told me that he only kind of follows through with things that the board directs and decides on. So that was very helpful to know that. And then I see the role of trustee as somebody who will bring in new ideas from residents, and I'd like to do more of that with seeking out new ideas, and then to prioritize those goals. And then something else that Manager Barrett shared with me that I thought was very helpful in understanding the role was that the best trustees come from some sort of success in their past background, in their careers. And I certainly have had a successful career as a teacher, and so I think I can bring those skills to the Board of Trustees.
Mr. Sorgatz?
Yes, the president sets the agenda and does so with the advice and consent of the board, of the trustees themselves. The trustees' responsibility, I think, is eminently important in this village. First of all, the comment was made about micromanaging. I think that refers that when trustees ask questions and want to get all the facts and all the details, I don't view that as micromanaging. I view that as a responsibility that I have as an elected official representing you, the residents of this community. It's extremely important that if I sit at that board table, that I do my duty and serve you, and my clear responsibility is to you, the residents first, not to the president, but to you who have elected me to represent you, to ask those questions that you don't have the ability to do. And I think that's a clear differentiation between the group that we're running against and how they view the process. It's important for independence, and it's important in terms of how this board functions going forward, so that you do have a plethora of good ideas and not have restricted ideas.
Thank you. And Mr. Hogan?
Our municipality has a manager, president, board of trustees, form of government. I'm not going to reiterate what everyone has said about how we function. I think Trustee Sorgas explained it well. I will say this, there is a difference in how much the trustees put into their work. There are some trustees on our board who put nothing into their job and have nothing to add during the discussions. We even had a salary negotiation. We had a trustee who thought it was outrageous that we would even have comments on salary negotiations. I believe if a trustee is to serve the community, that they have to be as aware as they can, and they have to input based on the knowledge that they have gained. And some trustees would do that, and some trustees just swing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Greer, this question, you'll start this round of questioning or answering. What is your position regarding the summer pads program held at St. John's?
I'm in favor of it, but to say it simply, I'm in favor of it. I believe that there are people that are in desperate need and they need to be helped, and we have the wherewithal to help them. But more than that, we have people at St. John the Baptist Church that have a passion to help them. Now, there are many municipalities that perhaps could help, but they don't have the people in place with the passion to do the work. And that would make the PATH program in those locations a weak solution. Whereas here at Winfield, we have people that are desperately and deeply committed to the PATH program to make it work properly. Therefore, I think we have a success, and we've had success, and I believe we will continue to have success with it. I know that some people are afraid of these people when they come in because they are, some of them are troubled people. But I believe that we should be able to take that small risk and use it as an opportunity to extend our love toward these people. I'm in favor of the PATH program.
Ms. Jacobs?
I am also in favor of the PATS program. A personal story is one of the first board meetings that I actually went to in person rather than watching on TV was one of the discussions about whether the PATS program should be re-upped. One trustee made a comment about that the PATS program actually brings homeless people to Winfield. And that actually really personally affected me in the sense that I just don't believe that's true. Working in a school that has a high low income rate, I know that having the programs doesn't bring the people. The people exist everywhere. People that need help exist whether we have a program or not. And so that really actually sparked in me wanting to get more involved. And so I am glad this program came up in the questioning, because I want to tell you that I have a heart for service. I want people to get the services they need. And I think that if we have, as Dr. Greer said, caring people in our community willing to do that, we should allow them to do that.
Mr. Sorgan?
I'm absolutely in support of the PATS program. What I love about living in Winfield is this is a giving community. We have a lot of people who want to volunteer their experience and commit time to contribute back to the village that they live in. And that's what I really like about Winfield. This is an important program to help people who have had various issues in their life, and really for us to be able to reach out and provide them assistance is really important. The other thing about volunteering in this community I want to mention it's really important with the wealth of knowledge that we have from people that live here in this community, that we reach out more to volunteers and participate in our committees and commissions. I think we've been lax at doing that, and it's important that we use the resources we have. This helps offset the lean staff that we have. It provides that expertise and experience that normally we'd have to pay a lot of money for, and frankly we can't afford to do in a lot of cases. So we need to continue to encourage that volunteership and continue to ask people to give their time here in Winfield.
Mr. Hogan.
I have voted in favor of the tax program every time it comes up. I believe in the program. I believe it's necessary not only for people in our community, but people who do not live in our community. I can reiterate what everyone said, and they said it very well. I think we're going to get 100% right now. That 100% of us are going to agree on this one program. I really support it, and I think everyone, I don't know, but I think everyone at this dais is going to support it.
This will be the last question. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Really throw a wrench in this by saying
Yeah.
Thank you. Love is risky. Love is scary. That doesn't mean you shouldn't love. We need to love our fellow neighbor. We need to love our fellow person. Whether you believe in Adam and Eve, or if you believe in evolution, we all stem from one being. And I am part of you. You are a part of me. And it is my conscience. It's my inner self to want to try to help. These people are putting their money where their mouth is. They are stepping up. They're volunteering to watch out for all the areas. They're volunteering with these people. I would have to say I'm in support of it. As it comes up yearly, I will be reevaluating it, but I don't think that being scared of love should force us not to love.
Thank you. Ms. Jacobs, this will be the last question, and it's something that I think several people have asked about. In the fact that no one's mentioned the character of Winfield. Does the maintenance of the village's character still matter? I'll read one more time. Some are concerned that no one has mentioned the character of Winfield. Does the maintenance of the village's character still matter? Ms. Jacobs.
Thanks, it's a very unique question. I think it absolutely matters. I don't think anybody in our town would say that the character of our town doesn't matter. As far as why it wasn't brought up tonight, I don't know that the questions necessarily lend themselves to that, but I do think that we do a good job of upholding our character. One of the benefits that I had of being on the Economic Development and Communication Commission was that I got to help them kind of look through the results of a community survey that they had done. They did the work, I didn't, I just helped look at it, but it showed what people thought about the town, and it asked them words and ideas that came up when they thought of Winfield. And over, community and like a sense of close-knit community and home and all that kind of stuff came up over and over again. So I do think it's in people's minds, and I think it comes out through individuals, and maybe that's why it didn't come up tonight.
Mr. Sorgatz.
Just to follow up on what Emily said, we worked on the mission and vision statement, which was based on a survey that we did for residents of Winfield, and that really spoke well to what Winfield's all about. I mean, Winfield is a giving community. Winfield is a loving community, and I'm proud to say that I'm a resident of Winfield. And as far as the character of Winfield goes, while a lot of people that don't live near Winfield or aren't aware, where's Winfield? I know you all have run into that before. Where's Winfield at? You know, the one thing that people find out once they come here about what a wonderful community that this is, and we have so many nice amenities here with the forest preserves, with the bike trails, with Contini, and so on, a wonderful hospital. So we have a great community. We have people that want to get back to the community. So for me to describe the character of Winfield, I would say it's one of the best communities in not just DuPage County, I think in the state of Illinois, and one of the places that is really desirable for people that want to live and stay here.
Mr. Hogan.
It's an interesting question. Winfield will never be Naperville. We are a small community, will remain a small community, I hope with a vibrant town center. Certain parts of the community have changed. We've annexed up to North Avenue, which is good. We are hopeful of developing Roosevelt Road, which I know some people have opposed in the past. But I think we've also added on things. We have a wonderful trail which goes from Geneva down to Jewel Road on the west side of Winfield Road. If anyone hasn't walked or biked that trail, you should. I walk trails all the time. It's one of the most beautiful trails in the system. And we're going to add on to the Riverwalk, and that's going to be beautiful. So we add on, we take away, but basically the character of this village stays the same. It's always going to be a small town, hopefully a family-friendly, people-friendly community.
Ms. Hamel.
So I tried to touch on this in my opening statement when I said we fell in love with Winfield, because we did fall in love with Winfield. We fell in love with the parks, the library. I mean, I am just so proud that the librarians know my children's names. Last November, we had that horrible ice storm. And I looked out my front window and there's most of my front tree down. And I looked and I thought, oh gosh, I gotta call the landlord. And I realized I am the landlord. And I've got about a Dremel and maybe a little handsaw, and I'm looking at this going, I don't know what I'm gonna do. As soon as we walked outside, one of our neighbors came by with a chainsaw. I mean, this is a helpful community. The moment it happens, you know, we came out, helped with the tree, we immediately started knocking on the doors of all the neighbors, making sure everybody was okay with the power outage. This is a beautiful, vibrant, wonderful community, and it's people, the residents are the biggest asset, and that's mine.
Dr. Greer.
Winfield repetitively in studies done by people who study municipalities across the state of Illinois and beyond have repeatedly called Winfield a top 10 community in the entire state in terms of retirees, in terms of young marrieds, in terms of low crime to the point of being almost non-existent, and the serious crime, and on it goes. We have high marks. Other people have said this, and it's true. We have the PADS program, as I mentioned earlier, we all mentioned earlier. We also have the Ronald McDonald House that is doing a wonderful work here, and we have good churches. But one more thing we have, and I've been hard on the hospital, but because of the negotiations we've been having with them. But it is a world-class hospital right here in Winfield, and I'm thankful for that.
It's time now for closing statements. Each candidate will have 1 minute to sum up their positions, and I'm assuming ask for your vote. And we'll start with Mr. Sorgatz.
Well, again, thank you everybody for attending this evening. Thanks to Northwestern Hospital. Key issues, I want to just go over real quick again. Town center negotiations with Northwestern. It's imperative we get back on track with that. It's imperative we understand that we have open communications, open dialogue. Let's cut the name calling. Let's get down to brass tacks and sit down and work out an arrangement that benefits the residents and also is something that we can live with in terms of coming to an agreement with Northwestern. We need to address the financial challenges and be aware of that. We have the potential for $1 million grant for the Riverwalk from the hospital. We have the $900,000 grant that also needs to be worked on. We have wonderful opportunities for development, but we need to keep focused on those and understand that the basic issue here is making sure that you have independent trustees who can really work hard, look at the issues, make the best decisions, and really come up with the best recommendations. Having that diversity of opinion is key and important to making sure you get the right processes accomplished.
Mr. Hogan?
You know, I sit next to him at the board meetings, and now I'm even starting to sound like him because I'm going to reiterate a lot of the things he said. Our biggest challenge right now is increasing our revenue stream, developing parts of this community that have to be developed, Roosevelt Road, the town center, developing the town center also to bring the heart back to Winfield. We have to negotiate a successful agreement with CDH. They aren't a bogeyman. We can do this if we negotiate professionally. And we can get a win-win for the hospital, they need our help, and for us, we need their help. I do agree with Trustee Sorgas on not having a monolithic board which thinks with one way and one way only. If you don't have people who think independently on a board, you will have a board that can't achieve all it could.
Thank you, Ms. Unruh.
So I think it's very apparent to all of you that I am not a politician, but I am a wife, I'm a mother, I'm an engineer, I'm a volunteer, I'm a committed resident. And when you vote for me, I'm going to be your champion. I ask for your vote because we need to have a united board for the negotiations. Now, I've heard criticism that this means we're monolithic, we're all the same. We can be different people and have the same goal. We are all different residents. We are different ages, genders, backgrounds. We have so much different about us, but we have the same goal. And by being united, that's not to say that we're the same. It's by saying that we're coming together.
Dr. Greer?
This election turns on a unity of the village board and the unity of village residents as we negotiate with the hospital. That is the key issue facing Winfield today. Benjamin Franklin said it well, we must all hang together or we will all hang separately. I believe that President Spandy has strong skills in negotiating and has demonstrated those skills repetitively during his tenure as president. We cannot afford having board members going rogue and wandering off with personal agendas, which has happened. This weakens us as we try to negotiate with the hospital. When Carrie Castardo, Jocelyn Amaral, and I are elected to the Board of Trustees, we will commit to working as a team with President Spandy and his administration. This doesn't mean that we are just simply his puppets, but it does mean that we understand how to work together. Am I done?
Yes.
That was fast.
Ms. Jacobs?
First of all, thank you to the League of Women Voters for having this forum for us tonight, and thank you to my fellow Winfield neighbors for taking the time to listen to all of our ideas. You all get civic engagement credit in my class. I will be here afterwards to answer questions, but I just want to remind you that as a teacher, a young adult, a longtime resident, and an active community volunteer, I promise that I will work hard every day to deserve your vote for this nonpartisan position. Every vote counts in this critical election, and I will vote for the best interests of Winfield. I have a unique skill set, and I am willing to bring that skill set and a fresh perspective in order to work towards positive partnerships on the board with every other trustee, village manager, and village president. My candidacy is described through the words communication, collaboration, and commitment. That is what you can expect from me. My name is Emily Jacobs. I am number 1 on the ballot, and I ask for your vote on April 2nd.
Please join with me now and thank you.